Having people reach out to me in empathy has been really surprising and moving. I did some of my darkest episodes this week, particularly revealing about my recordings of my father's abuse and kind of rummaging and gathering them and reacting to them. And it was really gut wrenching to see that I was clearly a child and he was clearly sober in his abuse of me. And it hurt. It hurt. And yet it was so cathartic and healing, in part because, it's this weird thing that it's not a weird thing, actually. It's pretty normal for abuse victims to record their abuser in either this grand conversation you think you're going to have, where you're going to reveal to the person who's purposefully hurting you that they're hurting you, and they're suddenly going to realize, oh my God, I thought it was all by accident. I didn't mean it. Or it really is also out of clarity because part of their abuse works on the uncertainty, on making you feel so unsure it's happening, or that of its title, that you back off and you stop confronting them. And I'm just so honored by the reception of it and even the legal advice I've gotten. Thank you so much. And I want to do this episode and we discuss after, and we heal. So let's proceed. As women slash any abuse victim, we have a hard time recognizing our pain and its source. Add on that no one really does teach us how to rebuild us, or at least we have no example in our proximity, and healing can feel useless, which makes acknowledging pretty lame. It's like asking someone the root square of 3 gazillion. I'm sure someone will figure it out, but why even ask if I'm not planning to be that someone? We're so busy moving on. But that's the problem. We move on to the same energy. We're in a simulation, I'm telling you, replied Josie. We are Sims. It was a dark note, especially because we have all killed our Sims or made them absolute hoes with 3 million kids and 3 gazillion simoleons. In some ways, I played Sims like my father played life, with a lot of cheat codes. I used to build walls around them and watch them die, declared Josie, laughing. You psychopath. I just got them pregnant a lot. What does that say about me? That you're stupid and have no concept of contraceptions? She giggled. In our sim world, we pushed boundaries and approached urges and curious repressions within us that the Catholic Church would respond to with a priest and holy water. Maybe we are just trying to vent something within us that we feel. Her eyes darted as if she was subtly acknowledging she was dreaming of removing the ladder of pools and watching people drown, which she also did to her Sims. The truth is, Josie had been so cut off and ended in work and dating that the Sims made her feel like God. And to her, God was the one that let her die in love, career, and even in health. While I approached Sims trying to give myself enough money to have a family. Ugh, God, that's sad. As you know, I've been listening to the recordings of my dad, and I passed them over to my mom, and she cried. She apologized and said I never realized how greedy and materialistic he was. He was a hog. God, he was mean. I felt relief at her acknowledgement because she had finally admitted what I knew. It was me versus my dad, and between a mom that dismissed his cruelty and a father who enjoyed it, I was alone. I was the sim drowning, and he removed the ladder. You think I'm evil? Josie asked, suddenly feeling bad for the sim murderous path she was on. Especially because I was building my Sims like 5-story mansions, gardens of 1 billion acres, and multi arc careers. They were pop stars, farmers, lawyers, vampires, all in one. My Sims were living. I mean, it's dark. It definitely hints at something, but I'm not here to psychotherapize anyone. I really am here to just set up the ofrenda party. We were celebrating Dia de los Muertos, and as usual with me and Josie, we have absolutely no singular thread to the randomness of our conversations. We go everywhere to land nowhere. Yet I had recently told her about unpacking the records of my father's abuse, and for some reason, that led to a discussion on how we treat our Sims, which is our favorite game. You think he treated you like a sim? She joked in curious intellectualization of my situation. And oddly enough, I said, yeah, I think he did. My father approached me like Josie did her Sims, marveling at our vulnerability. I was his chance to consistently build and break someone that he knew, no matter what, would be there waiting for him to bring her back to his life. I was a PC and he just plugged me in. Or I was a Sim and he built walls around me till I died. If that was my father's mistake, I, by all means, am a human being. And his belief that I would die in his cage was stupid. But yet, predators always believe such things. They're only angry that their victims do not stay victims, or rather, Sims. All right, let's discuss, let's heal. So, Sims is one of my favorite games. I mean, I buy the extension packs, I hack into them. I could stay, it's dangerous when I play Sims because I become a ghost. I become a troll. I just hide out in my little hovel and build them worlds. And I build them. I mean, I'm an architect. I build them McMansions. I give them multi-arc careers. They are farmers and pop stars. It's good that I'm God. Not Josie. Josie should not be God because she's a killer. She's basically death. But I do think there's an association. I was recently reading about how people who watch true crime and feel comfort at this show are probably sociopaths. And I mean I don't necessarily feel comfort. I actually stopped watching true crime because it is very dark. I don't like how people ended. I don't like to see people crying. And even I think for me as an abuse victim that again cannot even measure to what these victims went through. I think what's hard is what is justice? What is justice when somebody destroyed, completely disrupted your life and you're stuck in the shadows of what happened? What does it mean to rebuild? And that's why I started the episode. It's really hard to when you don't have examples of people that have rebuilt themselves and we have all these books, right, all these gurus that a want to get paid, need to get paid, and thus you have to pay, but you don't exactly see the documentation of their journey. They're just like the wisest people to not really be out so open about how they got wise. And again, we it's like we see the before and the after, we don't see the during. And the during is really important because you get lost and you get hopeless. And when I talked about recording my dad, it was because of the uncertainty he left me in whether or not this was abuse, whether or not he was sober, and hearing his clarity, but also hearing my fear, my sadness, totally awakened me and made me feel so certain that what happened happened. And he admits to crimes, he admits to stealing, he admits to hating his other family, but he doesn't care about my feelings. And he only cares that I don't call him. It's kind of like, don't call me a murderer just because I stabbed you. And I think with Josie, there is a darkness to how she treats her Sims. I mean, she's 100% on that TikTok thread about weird ways to kill your Sims. And I love Josie because she represents the friends in my life and the real conversations I've had with them. I've always attracted certain people, both toxic and great, right? Both I've attracted for all the toxic people I've attracted, I've also attracted really great people. And they're always so particular to you. And I attract really silly, smart people, people that just know how to make the most random examples and associations that are oddly wise and healing. And anybody else comparing paternal abuse to Sims would be canceled. But she says it in this way that you're like, it's almost cathartic. And it was true. And we were talking about, she doesn't like that she likes to do that. And I mean, what am I on? My Sims have like 30 children. They have abundance out of the ass. They have like 8-story mansions. I mean, what am I saying about me and my approach to them as God? Especially because the first thing I do when I hack into my Sims is I hack into the bank and I give them a gazillion simoleons. And I make sure that they're never hungry, that they're never struggling. We don't need to save. We got enough. And I make them all fall in love so quickly, which is my Achilles heel. I'm giving my heart free and fast. And it's so funny because we were talking about what it reflected in us. And Josie does suffer from depression. We've been open with each other about our struggles with suicidal ideation, and I think the way she ends them is totally, and again, we're not here to psychotherapize, but we did. It's totally a reflection of how she's felt ended, especially as a woman starting her own business, because she just can't take it anymore. Like, she can't take it anymore. If one more man doesn't pay her or denies her that promotion they're promising, she's going to go off. She's actually going to start hitting people with an actual live ladder at an actual live pool, and it does change you. And I think there's multiple ways to die, way more than physical. I think what my father showed me is that he killed me emotionally. He killed me mentally. He killed me financially. And because it wasn't physically, it almost was, I was not allowed, and he made sure I didn't call it abuse. But it was. It 100% was. And it was that weird, tricky thing of, if I kill you in every way except that one, except actually, then technically I'm not that bad, right? And you could technically move on. I just make sure you don't. But you could, and that was why I did those recordings and I went through them, because I sent them to my mom, and she cried and she said I was so weak. And it was the first time my mother ever cried and acknowledged that she was a bad mom. And she wasn't a bad mom in the sense of like my father, that was malicious and purposefully plotting against me. She was a bad mom in that she always thought she knew everything. And she always taught me to be like her, even in the ways that she didn't like, be stronger, be more forgiving. But she didn't always want to forgive my dad. He just was so threatening and dominating. And, he was a lawyer and a con man, and he was very good when he brought up the con versus when he brought up the law. And he would always say, oh, you're a woman, I'll shame you. What she was saying to me, of kind of threatening her with his knowledge of the law and this misogynistic court system that was not going to make him pay back all that he owed, and putting her through a process that would absolutely humiliate her. And he knew it. He knew it. And that was the thing about the recordings. My father knew what he was doing in every way. He knew that he was lying. He knew that he was caught. He knew his crimes. He just didn't want you to know how to feel about them. And it was very sim energy. Like, it's just undeniable sim energy. And I think my father, like Josie and her sims, there's just something attractive about having someone be vulnerable to you when you feel so vulnerable to everybody. Because I say that my dad never loved anybody. And he didn't, because if you love, true love doesn't have a mask. For all that my father conned and committed crimes against me and my mom and others, I mean, he even stole from clients. That's why he got disbarred. Um, there was a nervousness about consequence. He didn't know how to shut his urges. He was a drug addict that was consistently drinking and snorting, but at the same time was terrified of getting caught with drugs. He was a thief that was consistently stealing from clients, the government, me, my mom, but was terrified that someone would actually file a claim. And that was, when you live in that energy of, it's just constant highs and lows, this rush of getting away with a crime versus this constant worry that one day that sim is just going to break through the wall, or take the tiles from the bottom of the pool and build itself a ladder and slap you, Josie. It's I find relief knowing that my father would never experience the real things that I experienced. And he was fascinated by my reality, as I was fascinated and now bored with his delusion, which is, you can't be a good person consistently doing bad. You are just on image control, you're not on self. And Josie's a good person. I told her, you're not a murderer, you're not horrible. It's just in sim world you're doing this, but definitely get therapy. And hopefully she does. I recommend it to everybody, especially BIPOC women, especially anybody who has like a really traumatic family or somebody. If you find yourself always angry, always sad, always scared, you're not supposed to live like that. And if you're hating on people that have peace and happiness, you got to go get healed. You got to be okay. You deserve to be okay. You better go get checked before you end up like Mr. H, like my dad. That's not a normal life. And if you are good at making people feel your craziness, your cruelty is normal, go get help. Go get help. Go get help. Because I know you don't want to live like that. My dad was obsessed with looking good because he didn't feel good. And he didn't feel he could feel good. He didn't feel like he could be good. So he spent his entire life wasted and wasting others. Literally wasted and wasting others people's times, other people's money, other people's energy, because he genuinely didn't feel, no matter how much he clutched to, I'm a lawyer, he didn't feel like he could be genuinely good and actually be loved. And that's why he was mesmerized by my mom. She actually loved him. She actually enjoyed him. And I wanted to. He didn't give me a chance. He didn't want to give me a chance. And it's on recording. But don't do that. And I guess I'm talking to narcissists as an empath. Don't do that. There's always help. There's always help. You don't have to be so bad to yourself that you think the grand opus, the grand prize of your life is just making sure everyone thinks you're good and telling actually good people, like a child, that they're bad for calling you out on your lies, for saying that they don't like when you call them stupid or a bitch everywhere, like my dad. You can be loved. God, I can't believe I'm telling narcissist, horrible people this, but yeah, I believe in redemption arcs. I may not have your same redemption arc, but you can have one. Period. Redemption is redemption. And it doesn't need to be approved by everybody. You can't leave this world without knowing real love. And that is only when you show who you really are. And if you don't like who you really are, congratulations, you can change it and make that reality better. Not the image, the reality. So check out daddyrecovery.com for all these written reviews of my life. Check out Diandra Reviews at all for my actual entertainment reviews. And check out Hadeen on all platforms for my music. I really love you. And I want you to love yourself because I want me to love myself. And I just want us to be better than okay one day. I want us to be good, not Sims, people.